Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I know it's been quite some time since I've filmed a video. I actually looked back at my last YouTube video, and the last one I posted was 7 months ago, and that was just a mini grocery haul. So really it's been quite some time since I've uploaded anything or even filmed anything. This is the first video I've filmed since that time. So I wanted just to, start being more current and up to date and more, visible on YouTube, just because I like sharing like who I am and what struggles I've been going through. And it's not just for the sole purpose of building up subscribers, having so many followers on social platforms or anything like that. It's just because I like to share who I am, kind of like an escape out of like my personal life, from staying home all the time and being in the house all the time, so to speak. But I've had a lot of changes happen over the last, probably the last 6 months. So much has changed in our family. So my husband actually went back to work after being on unemployment for over a year. When COVID happened, he lost his job, and so he went back to work in June. So now that he's back to work, we're trying to get into more of a routine around here. Sorry about that. That was my phone. My husband was texting me from work. But anyways, we have went through a lot of changes in about the last 6 months. Like I was saying, my husband started back to work in June, and I just actually started a new job last week. I work from home, and I work for a pharmacy as a customer service representative for patients that are needing to place like orders on their medication that they have refills on. So I set up like deliveries and walk them through the steps of anything they might need to order for like current refills that they have. So I just started that last week, so I've had a full week of training, and I actually really enjoy it so far, and it's pretty decent money, the most I've ever made at any job I've ever had, because I was in the medical field, and this is medical related. So I was a medical assistant for a couple of years, but ended up deciding to like veer off into a different way of the medical field, if that makes sense, because I was testing COVID patients daily and risking my life, and kind of like putting my family at risk, so to speak, because I did find out about maybe a month or 3 weeks ago that I now have lupus. So I did some testing on that with my doctor. Like, he drew blood work twice just to, confirm that indeed is what it is. So now he has to send me a referral to go see a rheumatologist to kind of like get more in depth on what lupus really is, and get an actual specialist that specializes in lupus. So that's why I'll be seeing a rheumatologist. So my health over the last year has significantly decreased and declined a lot. I will be 32 in a couple months, and so I know the older you get, it's no secret that your health declines and things change, and that's just a part of life. And so like I realized like I was having so many symptoms that weren't making any sense to me. Like, I already have an autoimmune disorder as well, even before I had lupus. So now I have 2 autoimmune disorders. But I have Hashimoto's, which is the first autoimmune disorder that I found out I had, which I found out I had that probably about 4 years ago. So that's, on top of this lupus, that's a lot for me to take in, and a lot for me mentally and emotionally to deal with. So like, I've been struggling a lot in my health. I'm just so tired all the time. I have like this foggy memory. I can't think clearly. And the one big thing that has been a huge damper on my life and has been really affecting me to where I've been antisocial and not been wanting to be around anybody is depression. It's no secret that I've struggled for depression for many, many years. I tried to get help for it with like medication from my family doctor, but we've tried so many different medications and nothing has worked for me. So my doctor finally started me on something new called Zoloft, since I've not tried that medication before. And so I started that probably about 6 weeks ago, I would say. And so I'm going to be seeing him in about the next about a week and a half, 2 weeks, to probably increase the dose, because it has not been working. And he started me at a low dose because, you have to work your body up to the side effects that could potentially happen with starting new medication that you'd never tried before. So I understand why they have to, like, do a slow taper up and then, go from there to see if that medication is actually going to work for me. But it's no lie that I've still been struggling for many years, and my depression has not gotten any better. I realized that sometimes you just need to see a doctor and to get help for it, and seeing a doctor and being on medication for that doesn't mean you failed, and it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you to where you have issues, which, I have, I guess, mental issues, so to speak, about, my depression, anxiety, PTSD from, like, childhood related things, which that's a whole different topic as well. That's been a big part of my life. Like, I don't want to get into depth on certain people or what all particularly has happened in certain relationships that I've decided to, like, cut out of our life completely, because I've realized, the saying makes a lot of sense. Like, if you're toxic to me, you're toxic to my children, and that's where I have to draw the line. Like, we've both, my husband and I, have cut out a lot of different people, family related things in our life that I'm not going to get into detail about, but I've decided that for my mental health, I have to take the back seat to, or they have to take the back seat to my mental health. So I have to look out for myself more than anything in this world. Me, my husband, and my child, our child is the first, foremost important thing in my life. So I don't want to try and get emotional on this video or anything like that, because I can feel it coming on. But my mental health has not been good for about a year, maybe a year and a half, and I was in therapy for it. I was seeing a therapist for a while, for a good probably 4 to 6 months, probably about 4 months, I would say. And then I seen a therapist many years back, and I seen her for probably about 6 to 9 months, probably somewhere around there. And I stopped going to the first therapist just because I felt like, I don't know, I wasn't really being heard. She was more like, I don't know, it just didn't feel like it was serving its purpose for me. Like, maybe she was just young and just starting out in that career. Like, I'm not going to knock her or anything, because we all have to start somewhere. But they always say, check out another therapist, try somebody out that maybe fits you. Just because you failed at one therapist that, you can't connect with doesn't mean you're going to fail with all therapists. So I seen the second one that I have, which I like her, and I liked how we would have our sessions. But the thing is, with my new job, it's hard, being that I do my training right now from 9 to 5:30, so it's hard to find a therapist that's open after 5:30. And especially since my husband and I share a car, he works second shift, I work first. So really there's no time in between there to go to physically to a therapist office, to be seen in office. So I was doing virtual, like, Zoom related video call appointments, and, like, I love this therapist, I truly do. I just wish there's more openings and availabilities with her, if that makes sense, because I know working the first shift, then my husband has to leave with our car, an hour before I'm out of work, so there's just no way. And I know my mental health is the most important, but financially we're really drowning right now, just because I haven't been working for a while and my husband just went back to work. So it's been a lot of changes, and so financially we're just not in a place to even get a second car. We still have till April till we pay off our vehicle that we do have. But anyways, like I was saying before I get off topic on that, just my mental health has just really put a damper on me. Like, I can tell that it's put a big strain on my my family life. Like, my husband and I, we're fine. Like, there's nothing, like, wrong, so to speak. It's just I can tell, he's never said anything, but I can just tell that my mental health kind of puts just a roadblock in between our relationship, just because I don't want to, like, burden him with the problems I have, especially when he has a job that can be stressful sometimes. I mean, whose job isn't stressful to some extent, but it's just like my mental health has not been good for a long time, and I'm trying to get back to a point where I feel like myself, because I'm definitely not. Cutting people out of my life has helped a lot. Like, it's taken that part of the stress off me. Like, it's up here now, like, I feel better on that aspect, but now I'm, like, down here to where, like, it's just not getting any better. like, I don't want to be emotional on camera because, like, I'm not one to show my emotions to other people. Like, I'm very closed off to other people, and I don't show them how I feel. So it's not something that I'm vulnerable about. But my mental health has been really bad. Like, I think it started in 2011. Like, that's when the very beginning of it started. Like, I got married in, May of 2010, and we started trying for kids right after we got married. And so I ended up miscarrying in June of 2011, and that miscarriage, I think, is what started it all. Like, I can't blame it all on the miscarriage. Like, I can't blame myself for it, but I feel like that miscarriage kind of put me in, like, a deep, deep hole for a while. And so it took me a long time to recover from that. And then we found out that I was pregnant with my son in February 2012. So he actually just celebrated his 9th birthday on the 23rd of October. So, which now we have a 9-year-old, so it's crazy, to say, wow, we actually have a 9-year-old now. But anyways, I think from that start of 2011, when that miscarriage happened halfway through the year, I think that's what really started it all. Like, it wasn't that bad. And then after having my child, about 6 months after my son was born, we found out that I miscarried for the second time. So I found out actually 2 days before our wedding anniversary, before our second wedding anniversary. So that was just like, it's a horrible time. And then the day before, the day before our wedding anniversary, I had to go in for surgery. Found out after midnight. So I guess technically you could say the day before our wedding anniversary is when I found out I miscarried. So they had to do an emergency surgery to, do a D&C to get, I'm not going to go into depth about that, but they had to do a D&C because I miscarried. And so ever since those two situations in my life, that's when, like, my depression started. And from there, it's when it just peaked. It got worse and worse and worse to the point where I didn't know how to cope, and I still don't know how to cope. Like, this last year, I know with COVID, everybody's been going through a depression, and they say, oh, it could be from that, always being home. But for me, it's not because, due to COVID or from always being home, because I truthfully would rather be home. Just like, that's why I found a job working from home. I'm happier at home, but the thing is, like, I don't know why my depression is so bad. Like, I barely want to clean. I gotta force myself to do it. Like, it's a battle every day to just want to do anything, get anything done, be an active mom. Like, I feel like I'm failing my son. Like, it was hard to, like, get excited for, the holidays, his birthday. Like, I was excited. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I was ungrateful, not excited. But when you struggle with depression as bad as you do, like me or anybody for that matter, when you struggle that bad, it's hard to think of the exciting things ahead or what your happiness looks like. I've come to the point to where, like, I have to get help, and I have been getting help with my doctor, and I'm going to see if I can get a referral to a psychiatrist. Maybe that would help a little bit, because, therapy didn't do a whole lot for me yet. I can't say that for sure for the second therapist, but I did see her for several months, and I enjoyed it. And it's just like, I would see her once every 2 weeks, so twice a month I would see her, and it was nice. I felt like I could let out all that I was feeling and not feel judged for it. And so, like, she would listen really well, and it helped a lot. And I would always talk to her about how my relationship with my dad was, and I can finally say since then we have gotten a lot closer. But the unfortunate part is he's about to move out of state. He got a new job in Tennessee, and we all live in Michigan right now, but he lives about an hour from he lives an hour from me. We're both in Michigan, but he still lives an hour from me, so I don't get to see him that much because he spends an hour driving here and then an hour back, and then plus a little more if there's traffic. So with our car, the way it is, we can't drive it very far. That's another part of my stress topped onto everything else going on in life. But in therapy, I would tell her about just how I've been struggling with like parents and how I really don't have a relationship with some people. I don't want to get into detail because I don't know who all watches my videos, and some parts of my extended family, some immediate family, and some like, secondary family basically that watch this. But I've cut off relationships with certain people. It's toxic, it's not healthy, and like I said, if you're toxic to me, you're toxic to my kids, to my child. And so I don't want certain people in my life because of that. And so it's like I'm trying to deal with, I guess, trauma and issues from like my childhood, finding out my dad that I knew as dad for 7 years wasn't my dad. And I guess that was a big thing about it, and just knowing that the dad that raised me wasn't my dad. And I've met my bio dad after I turned 7. That's when I found out that my dad wasn't my dad. But when I refer to dad to this day, like how me and him have a good relationship, I'm talking about the dad that raised me. The one that was married to my mom. They're no longer married. They got divorced probably about 2 years after I got married. So sometime in probably 2011 actually, because I met my husband in 2009. And so got married in 2010. So I think my mom and him separated the end of 2011. But he's been my dad that ever since, I was about 10 or 11 months old. It was right before I turned 1. My mom and him were 17. She moved here at 18. And my dad and her were, the same age. They were 18. And so they raised me. And then going through that, like I was an only child till I was 9. My sister was born a month before I turned 9, actually. And so I thought all these years, like all those years as a child, that is, all those years, I thought that the dad that raised me was my dad, and come to find out he wasn't. So it's like learning to cope with not having my biological father there. And there's things in his life too that, I don't know how to say it, but he's got bad tendencies, not a good person. And I'll just say it, he's been in drugs for many years. He has nothing to do with me, but he's there for his other son, or his son. He has me, and then my half-brother, who is 41. I'm 31, and then my half-brother's 41. But he's in his life because they're similar, if you know what I mean. They're the same person. So I don't have anything to do with either one of them. I'm not putting blame on them, but I do put blame on him not being there for me, because that affects a child. Like once I found out that my dad wasn't my dad, that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. Like that's where like a little bit of my trauma came from when I was 7. I mean, as a 7-year-old, you really don't understand when somebody tells you that. That's like a little kid, like, oh, that's not your dad. That's like me telling my 9-year-old, for instance, oh, that's not your dad, after all these years. Like, that really puts a toll on somebody mentally. And I don't think, like, as I grew up into my teenage years, that I really understood much of it. I don't think I let it get to me because I was just so young that I didn't really understand. But it was probably once I was in my teens, maybe like 17, 18, 16, 17, 18, something like that, that finding out affected me around that age, I would say. And it was just hard to understand, like, why my mother waited that long to tell me, especially since he was in another state. He lives in Virginia, so we were in Michigan. Why would she do that when he's not been a part of my life all these years anyways? So it's just little things like that that's kind of like the PTSD for me. Childhood trauma, PTSD, relationships from like family, not like actual like boyfriend girlfriend relationships, like anything like that. I've never had any toxic relationships like that. This is the toxic PTSD trauma that I'm talking about, is like relationship with family and people that I once was close to, because I have struggled with depression for, like I said, many years, probably for a good 10 years, I would think. So it's like in my late 20s, my son was born when I was almost 23. So, I mean, I was happy during those years. Like, my son turned 9, and, I was happy having a baby. And I guess my infertility struggles as well was something that really played a big part in who I am. We tried to have, a second child, and that didn't happen. I mean, I miscarried when my son was 6 months old, so we weren't able to have another. And I think I'm still trying to accept another thing that's going on in my life. So in October of 2018, I ended up having a medical procedure done that gave me zero chance of ever having a child. So to back up just a little bit before I go there. So in probably 2015, 2016, probably 2016, I found out that I had PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and I found out also that I have endometriosis. And so those two things tied together work against me to ever get or stay pregnant. Like, I was very lucky to get pregnant 3 times, let alone, even though one was only successful during that whole time. So finding out that information, I think, was just a big, punch to the gut, so to speak. Like, it was something that I didn't really expect. I don't know my father's side of the family to know if that ran in the family or not. So it was like coming out of left field. Like, it doesn't run on my mother's side as far as she knows. So that probably was a big thing. Like, finding out, on top of, I had hypothyroidism. That's when I found out I had it, probably right after my son was born. But after my second miscarriage in 2013, I went and seen a specialist, an OBGYN that specialized in endometriosis and, like, infertility. And I think maybe several months later, I can't remember all the dates, but maybe several months later into the next year, found out through blood work that I had hypothyroidism, and then found out from other tests, ultrasounds and all that, I had PCOS and then endometriosis. So finding out infertility as well really put me into that deep, dark depression that I really truthfully knew was taking me down as just a sad road. Like, nothing bad, just like I could tell I wasn't happy. So really off and on through these years, it was hard to be happy because I felt like so much was just going on to where, like, I just couldn't deal with it. But also in October 2018, I ended up having a total hysterectomy, which they removed ovaries, tubes, cervix, uterus, the whole 9 yards. And so I felt like with my infertility and all the pain that I was having from, like, OBGYN related issues down there, like, I realized that I just couldn't live with that pain anymore. I had to take care of my child that, I had. So it was like I had to put that first, even though I felt like I didn't want to do it, but I felt like medically I didn't have a choice. Like, no doctor forced me or made me, but they recommended it. I did my research. I took probably a year to think about it before I actually went through with it. Yeah, I would say probably about a little over a year it took me to finally come to terms with that. And so October 2018, so it's been 3 years now that I had that surgery done, and I think I'm just trying to come to terms with that surgery being 100%, like, it's non-reversible. You can't go back on it. You can't change your mind, even if I wanted to. So it's like dealing with knowing that I'll never have another child, I think, is the hardest part. And just understanding, like, wow, my family really has to be complete, even though it won't ever be as complete as I would hope for it to be. I'm grateful for the child that I have. And I'm really thankful that I was able to have him, because doctors told me before our pregnancy, like, it might be a struggle for you to stay pregnant or even get pregnant and have a successful pregnancy at that. So after that happened, it was just like, wow, that just was trying to come to terms with that and really letting it truthfully sink in my heart, knowing, like, this is it. So once I had that surgery, I felt like to this day, I'm still have not come to terms with it. Like, I feel like I'm trying to accept it for what it is, but I feel like I haven't accepted it. Like, that comes on with the depression as well. Like, a lot of my issues is I feel like my womanhood was taken from me, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I wasn't dealt a fair game of cards. Like, I wasn't given a fair chance at, you only have one life to live. I feel like I wasn't given that one life to live. I was given a shitty hand at life in a way. And it's trying to understand, like, what I did so wrong for that to happen, you know? It's like, what did I do for all this to go wrong? And it's like, I blame myself for it. Like, we wanted more children. My husband never says, oh, I wish we could have more. Why did you have to have problems? I mean, when we were actively trying for children back, 2013, we tried. And really tried. I went to an OB and was put on fertility meds. We tried for a good 6 months. Tried a medication called Femera for a couple months. That didn't work. And then we tried Clomid for a couple months, and that didn't work. And so that was to the point where I just told my husband I just give up, especially with my medical problems that I've been having at that time. It was just, that's when my health was slowly starting to decline. So my health started declining during that time, but in the last year, it's really, like, steadily declined, like, quickly. Like, it's becoming a lot faster than it was many years ago. But anyways, my depression has been a big factor in why I've been so absent. Like, I'm just unhappy. Like, I love my husband. I love my son. I am thankful we have a roof over our head. Thankful we both have decent jobs. And we have a car to drive. It may be close to breaking down, and we can't financially afford it, but that's just life. That's just the hands we were dealt. And my son's birthday was last Saturday. We did a tiny party with just my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and then my dad, his wife, and their daughter came. So it wasn't a big party because financially we just couldn't afford it. So we've been in a huge financial burden rut, but I don't want to get into details on that because it's just a lot as it is. But mental health is something that I'm very, very passionate about, and I've encountered several people in my life that like to make comments. Like, I know social media is not very good in aspects of, like, people say things and people can take it to heart. You don't know how they're trying to come off or who they're even implying it to be about. But when you kind of know, and it's certain people in our lives that likes to talk shit, basically. I'm just going to say it. Some people like to talk shit and say that mental health isn't real, that mental health is just people trying to get attention or act out, or they just like to, get attention from other people, really. And that's actually really not true. Mental health is something I definitely advocate for. I have a really good friend that struggles with depression as well, and she is somebody that truly gets me, and I love that I have her to talk to. I don't really have any friends. I have 2 good friends, and that's all. Like, I don't hang out with nobody else outside of my home other than my mother-in-law, and then obviously my father-in-law, and then 2 friends. Like, that's it. And then my husband, clearly, and son. But really, outside of the family that I'm talking about, like my in-laws and us, and then my 2 best friends, that's it. Like, it's hard to have a relationship with friends when you're struggling so bad, but my 2 friends are really good about it. And one of them really struggles with depression, and the other is just, like, has a lot of stress, too. So they kind of understand, which helps a lot, especially when you feel like you're alone and you don't feel like anybody gets you. And so I'm trying to think how to say this. I'm really huge on mental health and talking about it because I feel like people shouldn't be ashamed of it. Like, I'm ashamed that, in a way, like, I'm going through all this and I feel like I'm alone. Like, I went through a bad depression probably 6 months ago where I lost about 22 pounds in the course of only a month or 2. So, I mean, my doctor was concerned because he said that's such a quick decrease in weight in such a short amount of time. He said that's not really healthy. He asked, like, what things were I doing to lose weight? And it's true, I just don't hardly want to eat. Like, I don't have an appetite. But my doctor finally started me on a depression medication, and He started this about 6 weeks ago, so I have to follow up with him soon because it's not working. I'm on like a low dose to start with, which I was saying I'm on Zoloft right now, and the dose I'm on, 50 milligrams, is not working. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I do have mental health troubles. Like, I have all like the signs of it and everything, except the one thing is I'm not suicidal. Like, I don't have any suicidal attempts or any suicidal thoughts that I'd be better off alone or dead. I have just everything else, which is a good thing, because I don't want to be like, suicidal, which is the thing. Some people are, and I'm not saying it's negative. It's just something that I personally don't have when it comes to depression, which I'm glad, but it's not something for people to be ashamed of. So it's like I was saying, some people in our lives like to make comments like, oh, all she is depressed. She don't like to go nowhere. She don't like to do anything. She's lazy. But they just don't understand. That's why I've stayed away from so many people. Letting go of toxic relationships, no matter if it's family or not. Because sometimes blood doesn't always mean family. Family isn't always what it's cracked up to be. I know so many people that say they don't have a relationship with their family, basically. And so it doesn't mean that it's all your fault, per se, but I mean, it's something that I've had to come to terms with, just letting go of relationships because it's not healthy. I'm not going to get into details of who and why, but it's just family of mine that I don't really communicate with. And as it is, I don't have much family here in Michigan. And I think that's the hard part of trying to come to terms with that as well. Like, knowing that relationships had to be cut off to help my mental health is a whole lot. And I'm trying to figure out like a happy medium and a healthy balance when it comes to my mental health. Because, I mean, if they're bad for your mental health, then you really shouldn't have these people around. So nobody should ever be ashamed of who you are, where you come from, who you're going to be. Like, trying to be the very best version of yourself as you can possibly be is probably one of the most important things you can do as a person. And I'm hoping that my mental health gets better. Like, it's to the point where I feel like I'm worthless. I feel like I'm failing my son. I feel like I'm failing my husband, because you only get one life to live, and I feel like I'm not the best version of me that I can be. And so that's where I've been for the last 6-7 months. Like, I've truly been struggling. I want to come back to YouTube and just share my journey, even if nobody else sees it. Or even if just a handful of people see it, 2 or 3 people. If I can tell my part about my mental health and it helps somebody else be able to talk about their mental health or go seek a therapist, psychiatrist, doctor over this, then that's all I could ask for. Mental health is something that 1 in 4 people struggle with. Like, I looked up some statistics a couple weeks ago, and I don't have them, right off to read off to you, but I did some, I did some research on a couple different sites that were actually accredited and true sites. And the percentage of people that struggle and go through depression and mental health is just crazy. Like, it's so common. And I did read that during COVID, like since 2020, COVID has been a big relation to people struggling with mental health. And so as I sit here, I just can empathize with so many people that are truly struggling when it comes to anxiety, depression, PTSD, all that. And as a huge advocate for it, like, if anybody ever needs to get anything out or needs a shoulder to lean on, a friend to talk to, or, just a way to get something out and vent. Like, I like venting on here because I feel like people can judge me all they want, but getting it out, might help somebody. People can get an idea of how others feel, and maybe they feel that same way and they don't know what to do. So I'm not a doctor. Yes, I'm a medical assistant and worked in the medical field, but I am not a doctor. And so my advice for anyone struggling with mental health is to go see a doctor, set up an appointment with a psychiatrist, a therapist, your family doctor, anything. That's where I started, was with my primary care doctor. Like, I'm not cured, and I know I'll never fully be cured, but anxiety medication and depression meds can help some people, and I'm on the right track for that. So I'll see my doctor here in probably another week or two to, let him know that this medication's not working, what I can do, going forward. And he said that, we would increase it after like 4 to 6 weeks. So it's been about, over 6 weeks now. So once I go in, we'll discuss that and be able to, figure out a medication that would work for me, and if that medication's even, still on the table. So he did say that he wants to, increase it in about 4 to 6 weeks. And so I was excited about that, because I'm really needing help with my mental health. Like, it is not going good. And like, I don't like to be one to complain, but when somebody struggles with mental health, they feel alone. And if somebody struggles, you should be there for them no matter what. Because at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you. And I know I keep repeating myself with that, but it's true. You have to do what's best for you. Cutting off toxic people in your life, letting go of people, getting other people into your life that's good for you. Like, I've let some people into my life just as well as I've let people go, because it's not good for me. If you're not healthy for me, you're not healthy for my children. And so at the end of the day, it's just like, you have to figure out what you're willing to part with and what you're willing to accept. Like, it took me a long time to realize letting somebody go that you thought you loved is not bad. Not like saying a spouse, for me, I'm saying. But if you're in a relationship that's not healthy, then get out of it. If you're unhappy, then, you need to do something to fix it. Like, that's why I'm trying to fix the people in my life to try and help the depression. Like, I know even on medication, you're not going to be healed or fully, better. It's not going to work that way. And I understand that. But anyways, this video is getting, way too long, and I don't want to keep rambling on about the same topic, but mental health is very important. If you feel you're struggling and you're just not happy, go get help. Like, that's something I'm doing. I'm seeing my doctor, and we're going to talk about increasing my dose the next appointment I go into, because I've not been myself. I'm not as happy as I once was, and I really just want to share my story with other people, just to let them know, they're not alone. And then maybe in another video I will share more things about my health and what journeys I've been on with other surgeries and my health related issues that's hurt me a lot, but what things I've dealt with. I have a good support system. My husband's really good about listening to me and understanding. He doesn't ever get on to me and yell at me for being the way I am. He is very supportive and always has been, so I got lucky there. But if you are needing a shoulder to cry on, an ear to listen, I'm just a message away. I just don't want people to feel like they are alone. You can always come find me over on Facebook, Instagram. You can write comments below, any of that. But if you could like and subscribe to this video, to this channel, you won't be missing any of my uploads, because I do want to be more consistent on here. I love doing sit down videos, explaining things, kind of getting my word out, and letting people in on who I really am. I've been struggling. I'm not perfect. I have a lot of shit wrong with me. Trust me. I have a lot of shit wrong. But if you ever feel alone, just know that I'm always here. And I'm not going to judge somebody, because look at me. I have a whole lot of crap that's wrong with me. So I'm the one that will never judge you. But anyways, if you would comment down below anything that you would like, subscribe to this channel, and I will try to be more consistent on here and maybe upload another video this week. But as of right now, this video is becoming very long, and I need to get ready for bed, because I filmed this super late and my son will probably be up early in the morning. But that's it for today's video, guys. I appreciate you watching my video, and just remember, you are not alone. You are worth it. You are courageous. You are really strong. You can do anything you set your mind to, and never feel like you can't talk to somebody. I am one person you can always come to, like people that don't even know me. I'm not going to judge you, because look, I know I'd be judged for all the shit that I have going on. But anyways, thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to it, and stick around, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.